Good morning.
Good morning, Jim.
Good morning. Are we waiting for Sean?
You guys are all good to get started.
All right, good. Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to IQ Power Tools. My name is Jim Mackel. I'm the president of IQ Power Tools. And we just wanted to take a little bit of time here this morning to show you around our facility, give you a little history on the organization, as well as run through some of the tools that might apply to your day-to-day trades. So to get started, I'll give you just a little brief agenda of what to expect. And if there's anything you guys want to add or learn more about, there's a chat box on this web link that you guys can type in your questions, and actually during the presentation or towards the end, we'd be happy to address some. To get started, a little bit of history on the company. IQ Power Tools, we're based out of Southern California, just outside of Los Angeles. The company as a whole is about 20 years old. We incorporated it as IQ Power Tools in 2012, so just under 10 years old. And the company was really born out of the masonry trade. So the original owners of the organization, one of them is actually still our current CEO and co-founder. They were masons by trade. They came from the trades through their fathers and grandparents, so all industry related. And actually the original tools were built to address issues and needs they had on their own job sites. And really the big problem that we're all aware of was dust containment and slurry and sludge from using water. So what they did is started building equipment for themselves. And kind of the Cinderella entrepreneur story is, you know, guys on the job sites would ask where they got them and if they could buy them. And, you know, eventually one thing led to another. By probably 2008, 2010, they were populating tools out of their own business, and then obviously eventually incorporated into IQ Power Tools. So we do all of our development, all of our testing, all of our prototyping is actually done in the warehouse I'm going to show you. Kind of the still cool story to this day is we really don't have engineers and electricians and everything else. We actually have tradesmen from the organization that came from the trades that are still doing this to today. I mean, we do it all of ourselves. So with that, I'll take you for a quick tour. We'll come back in, we'll go through some of the tools, we'll go through some of the blades, and some of the kind of service and maintenance and everything else. And again, if there's any questions as we're moving along, please don't hesitate to either, you know, drop in via mic or on the drop box with a question, and we'd be happy to answer the questions for you. So as I said, we do everything in-house here. To give you an idea as we wander out of the warehouse, so this is actually our training room and our R&D room. Originally, this was actually our assembly room, but we've since moved that out of here. We needed more space because of the population of tools, but we do all of our own 3D printing, and I'm going to show you something kind of cool, or at least I get a kick out of it. But we actually do things in small print to start, just to see, you know, what the saw would look like, the dimensions, and everything else, just to start getting a visual idea. And if Matt scans over here to the other side, to give you kind of a brief description, we actually make all of our prototypes. They're running prototypes. We have gauges and monitors and everything else, and we test the airflow and how it performs. We go to an actual 3D print. This was actually the first running prototype, and if you actually look at the drum of this is lower, we realized we needed more dust containment space, and you know, we made some more tweaks, and this is the finished product. Same thing with one of our tile saws. This actually works. It's a running prototype. We made this all here ourselves. And then kind of to fix up the cosmetic side of it, we'll go into the 3D print and kind of make some tweaks from a cosmetic standpoint and a running performance standpoint. But all of that's done in this room and out back here. So for California, and actually we pull tools in as well. We actually have a service room here. So we do all of our service and repair here as well. We'll wander out in the warehouse here. So if you guys have been so entertained by some of our YouTube videos, as I said a minute ago, we do a lot of training, and especially in the last year with this terrible COVID pandemic. But we actually built a mock-up bathroom here. And if you've seen some of our YouTube videos, it actually looks like you're in a bathroom. But this is just something that we do a lot of our training and video shoots and everything else. And again, all of that's done here. We're kind of in the middle of another additional remodel, but we've got our fabrication room and our welding room here. Again, we do everything right in-house. We'll test motors. As you can see, some of maybe some of our competitor or quasi-competitors' tools floating around in here, but we grab stuff and test it and tweak it and everything else. One thing we also do, and we'll talk about this when we get back inside, is we do a lot of testing for dust containment on our tools. And we obviously do UL, which allows us to get CSA, which applies to Canada, as well as UL listing, which is North America. Another one is the CE certification in Europe. And one of the things that CE uses in Europe is a company called TNO in the Netherlands. And what they have is an exact replica of this room. And what you can do in the table over here, put the tool in here and you see this blue monitor, and we can get real-time dust containment capture from application of cutting, whatever material we're cutting, the speed of the cut, the heat of the blade, everything. So we do all of our pre-testing here. It's obviously not certified. We're not a certified testing organization, but it gives us really good data to work on what we want to do with tweaks and improvements on our tools. But we do all that real time right here with all of our equipment. So we really know what we've got by the time we put, product out to market. And this has been very, very helpful for us in a lot of different ways in improving our tools and our dust containment and everything else. Not too exciting back here, our warehouse. We've got just over 30,000 square feet of storage. As of right now, this warehouse supports all of North America. And then we have a warehouse over in Roosendaal in the Netherlands, just south of Amsterdam, which is actually about the same size as this, that supports our European operation. Back here, we do a lot, as I said, we do a lot of testing. It's early in the morning here still, but out here by the forklift, we'll put equipment out here under a tent, and we'll cut material, we'll test blades, we'll test the performance of the prototype machines we've got. If you look at some of our 362s here, these are different motor modifications and RPMs and everything else. Good example of blade testing. You wouldn't want to be the guy that does this actually as well, but we cut a lot of material here. And as if you can see, there's actually counts in here. I believe we've got about 4,000 cuts here on a single blade, which actually I've got inside. But again, they'll test the speed, the rate of burn on the blade, the heat of the blade, the quality of the cut, everything. And we document and make tweaks to our blades, make tweaks to the machine if it's an RPM issue or what have you. But again, all of it's done here real time, and we want to know what we're putting out to the market. So that gives you a little tour of the backside of the facility. We'll go back inside. We can walk through some of the equipment. Any questions so far that we can answer for you? All quiet on that side? All right, so I'll start with the 2000, and we had a pre-recorded version of this, and I'm not as great a storyteller as Paul Guth, who's our CEO and co-founder, because he was actually the one that was there for all of this, but I'll try and do my best. This is the 2000 unit. This was actually one of the original units that Masonry Technologies, which was the original company, built for their own job sites. Obviously, it wasn't as pretty as this. We actually have it in back. It's going to go into our history museum at some point. But it's a pretty cool contraption, and they built it out of their minds and out of their experience and everything else, and which eventually became this. This tool actually comes in 4 different versions. There's 2 electrical versions and 2 gas versions. Actually, up in Canada is one of our biggest markets for this tool. They actually put it in a cage as a single unit and can drop it on high-story buildings. You know, if they're actually working up on multiple floors. It's all self-contained. They're all gas units. The electric units are actually very popular as well for industrial applications, brick and block plants and everything else. But we actually make everything through the table here. And if you guys have a Multi-Quip or an MK or an Imer or a Target or whatever, you basically just send us the specs and we'll mic the table out to drop right into the specific actual motor front piece that you have. Everything else, the vacuum and so forth, we make ourselves. So we can actually cut in here, and I had a pair of safety glasses. I'll make a quick cut. You guys can see it. We can cut right in here with dust containment, no issues. Everything that we make is from a setup and breakdown application is very simple, which is obviously very attractive to the market as well. You don't have to worry about water. You don't have to worry about the sludge and the slurry and the setups with the tents or the tarps to contain the water. Basically, all that you do is turn this thing on. So this might not apply specifically to the hardscapes and the smaller job sites, but just to give you an idea on the dust containment, you know, we're cutting in a small shop. If you notice, there's 0 dust. So this, you know, you could drop this thing anywhere and cut. You know, we're cutting obviously full-size cinder block there, no issues. Again, very simple. It's just coming in through the vacuum system. You've got the filter system here. And I don't want to open it right now because we're obviously going to still have dust rattling around here. But down here on the bottom, you've just got a large collection tray. And essentially at the end of the day, you can drop that in a construction bag. I can't speak specifically for Canada. In the US, if you're actually on an active job site where they're still turning soil and everything, legally Table 1, which is the OSHA requirement for the US, you can actually turn this right back into the soil and rake it in and walk away. I don't know, I cannot speak for Canada, that's just specifically for here, but very simple. We do have the additional, and this is an added feature, we do actually have on this unit here today, we have the HEPA filter in addition, so there's an actual additional filter system on here. They're made to order, so very simple. You can use it without it if you don't want. The dust containment, as you just witnessed right now, is essentially the same. It's just that added, like, you know, layer of protection. So, okay. No questions? Everybody still quiet? Smaller version, the 1000. This is actually in a redesign at the moment. We do make this. It's very portable. It goes through a 3.0 man door. So on commercial job sites, construction elevators, everything else, very portable unit. It's a 230 volt unit, so you've got to make sure you've got the right power source. This actually has a 14-inch blade on it right now. We're looking at improving that potentially up to a 16.5 or possibly even a 20-inch blade. So really not a huge topic of conversation at the moment. We're going to try and upgrade this significantly over the next 9 to 12 months. But it is available. It's portable. We've got a lot of them in the market. It's well received. It's basically a step-down version from the 2000 if you need something a little more easily mobile for a smaller job application or tighter corridors or something like that. Okay. Okay, moving on. The 362, which Merkley and the Canadian market, this has been a very, very popular tool up there we launched this in January of 2018 at the World of Concrete. This tool took off like wildfire. It's been a big working horse for us for IQ Power Tools, and the feedback has been absolutely phenomenal. I'll give you some features and benefits of it, some of the new accessories we came out with. We can talk a little bit about service and maintenance on this tool. Again, this tool is all tested and third-party tested for, we can cut indoors, which we'll make a quick cut here in a second. It's a standard 120 volt tool. You traditionally do want to run it off of a 20 amp plug if possible, but most standard house plugs will work. Just some I don't want to call them do's and don'ts, but maybe a little bit of what to consider is if you're cutting hard stone or you're putting a lot of stress on this motor and you're plugging it into a standard house plug, you're probably going to start popping breakers. So typical anything, just like if you were working any other power tool out there. This again, and as everything that we have, this is all integrated vacuum system, filter system, dust containment. There's no water anywhere on this tool. Some of the questions, and especially up in Canada and the Northeast of the United States, can this tool get wet? It's going to be just like any other power tool out there. Can it get wet? Yes. Do you want it to be out in the pouring rain? No, absolutely not. If you get water down into the vacuum system, you're going to want to let it dry, and you can try and clean it out as best you can, but you obviously want to, just like any vacuum, you want to keep anything that would hinder the performance of the vacuum, you want to keep that cleaned out. You know, but so kind of typical standard maintenance is if you had a shop vac on a job site or a grinder with a shroud or anything else, you just want to keep the performance of the tool at the best performance possible. Outside of that, not a lot of big change in rules or anything like that. This tool is a 16.5-inch blade. This will allow you to cut about 5 3/4 inch height. You've got 24 inches of table travel. So you can put which is, as fate would have it, every time you make a tool, and it was there, all the tiles were 18 by 18 or 24 by 24. Now I think they're all 36 and 48s and everything else. So we'll have to come out with something again. But this is a 24-inch table travel. You've got about 12.5 inches to your left, obviously unlimited to your right. And then you've obviously got the pass-through as long as someone's on the other side to collect the material. If you want to get creative, you really have no limitations on the back. If you put this tool up against anybody else, some of the really nice features on this tool is for one person, it's very portable. And again, if you go to any of our YouTube videos, we've got a lot of video shoots that we've done ourselves, as well as a lot of contractors out there that have talked about this tool. This tool, for what it actually does, there's nothing like it from a portability standpoint on the market. So you have one person on a job and they need to move this tool. All that they've got to do, and they can walk away with it. They can bring it out to their truck. You're looking at about 150 pounds. So if you've got if you've got Herculean strength, you can actually single-handedly put this thing in your truck by yourself, not a problem. Now keep in mind, you've got dust collection here that you can add about 50 pounds to this, which will get it up to obviously about 200 pounds. So vacuum system, filter system, dust containment, basically all that's happening here is the debris is actually going down through these louvers, down through this vacuum system here. If you can see this, this little shroud here, it's going down through the vacuum system, down through the filter system, and then at the end of the day, here's your debris. If you can. So again, same applications apply to this as what I mentioned on the 2000. Here, at least, and I can only speak for North America, you can actually rake this stuff back into the soil. Another very, very simple solution. We do a lot of the Spec Mix 500s for Belgard, Oldcastle, Teckle Block, everything else. You can actually just dump that in a bag, let the bag sit for 5 to 10 seconds just to let the dust settle down, pull the tray out of the bag and tie the bag off and throw it away as debris. So very, very, very simple. I'll make a quick cut on this one. So some of the questions, just so that my mic goes back. So some of the questions we get on this, one is, how does the blade not get hot? Which is a big question because this is one of the really only dry cutting type diamond blade dry cut saws out there in the market. So if you've noticed, our blades actually dropped into the table probably, and I can't be exact, Matt behind the camera would be better at answering the complete technical question, but we're about 1/8 of an inch drop lower than a traditional wet saw out there. What that actually helps doing is if you see these the grooves here in the table, and as well as the louvers. So we're basically air cooling this blade, and I should have done this right when we stopped cutting, and this wasn't a terribly big piece of block, but we basically have managed to use the air in place of water to keep the blades cool. Diamond blades, one of the worst thing you can do is overheat them where they're sparking or you're glazing them over, because that's really when you start doling them past the point of repair. But we've managed to build the technology around it to allow us to do what we need to do, keeping the blade cool and the performance of the blade stays where it should be to give you the cut that you need. Questions yet? You guys are a quiet bunch this morning. We like questions. Just type in the box. Yeah. I'm sorry. I thought we could. Okay. Maintenance and repair on this. So I do want to go over a couple things with this. What do you want to do to take care of this machine? It is a machine. It's just like a car or a motorcycle or a boat or any of your other power tools. There are a couple of things you want to do to keep the performance of this tool up. We actually sell, and Merkley actually bought quite a few of them in spring. So we did a big spring cleaning tool maintenance program, which is the brushes. This is a brushed motor. When you're cutting hard material, you are going to wear those brushes down quicker. Question might come up, how long can I expect my brushes to last? Traditionally, probably about a year. If you're really hammering on this machine, a handful of hours every day, 5 days a week, and you're cutting hard material, you could probably cut that life in half. But probably the generic answer would be about a year. So you do want to replace the brushes. You've got a filter system in here. So how do you clean the dust? There's a spin filter. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry, guys. There's a spin filter here. You're just going to turn that. You can hear that rattle. All that is this just going just like that. And it's just dropping the debris whatever collected on that filter. Very, very simple technology, works great. So brushes, you want to replace this filter once a year. This is about, and forgive me, the exchange rates these days, so I'm going to use US dollars. The exchange rates worldwide are everywhere, but this is about an $89 replacement filter. It's 4 screws. You basically unwind it. So it's like changing your air filter on a dirt bike. It's a 5-minute exercise start to finish. So that's number 2. The third one that you're going to want to do is replace these louvers. And I'll show you what these are. If you can see those gray louvers here. So they come in 3 pieces. And again, it's a very simple change. And all that you do is it comes in a bag just like this. And there's just little tabs on here, and you basically just you basically take the table off just like I did, flip it upside down, knock those tabs out, replace this filter. If you notice they're actually not cut through, you will make that cut obviously with the blade. Why this is important is what will happen, and I used to have there was an old set of louvers floating around here. As you cut a lot of hard material, a blade's always going to find the path of least resistance, which means that blade's going to start walking, which is going to open up these gray tabs here, and you're going to lose your dust containment. You're going to lose your airflow control. And what the tight blade, with these louvers does is it actually maintains a high level of vacuum performance, which is obviously going to be very important for your dust containment. Okay, so those would be the three service pieces. Outside of that, it's a very simple, low maintenance machine. You can cut block, stone, granite. We have a porcelain blade, which we'll talk about in a minute, which is now taken over the market, which is the 20 millimeter porcelain. It'll cut the porcelains out there, and pretty much anything in your landscape, hardscape, masonry design, block and stone, up to 5 3/4 inch high and 24 inches long. We've got the solution for you. Okay. Moving on. And I'll kind of go through, or actually, forgive me, I'm going to go back for 1 second. I do want to show you two new accessories that we will have ready for the market within about the next 30 days. The first one is, and I apologize, we have no more samples left, is the hollow brick. And I'm not exactly sure if this is a very popular product up around the Ottawa market. I know it floats up around the Ontario and Montreal market, but if you're cutting a lot of this and you're ripping it, and I do not have a full piece, we've cut this down a few times, but the biggest problem we had is when guys were ripping it this way, you have zero dust containment because of the hollow sides. What we have done is come up with a simple accessory. So you basically just put these pads on there and you can make your cut and rip. So these will be available. They're going to be around, I think, $79 or $89 retail, but those will be available in the market within the next probably 30 days or less. We've got them coming. And as we're probably all painfully aware, shipping and logistics, everything's running 30 to 60 days behind because of the port congestion. So that's one accessory. The second one, which is actually the same timeline, and we were asked a lot about this actually up in the Canadian market as well as our European market, and same price, these will be about $89, is a cover for the tools. So that'll be another nice accessory if you guys have it out in the truck, or you want to leave it outside in the backyard overnight for a job that you're working on without having to put it back in the truck and take it home. We've got a cover for it as well. So those are two. Those will be readily available here within the next 30 days. Okay. I'll run through some of these, and Merkley has moved a few of these. So this is the IQ TS244 tile saw. This is a ceramic and porcelain tile saw. Same depths of cutting dimensions as the 362 minus the blade size. You've got 24 inches of travel. You've got about 12.5 inches on your left. You got a 10-inch blade. So we recommend about 1.5 inches, 1 3/4 depth of cut maximum. Qualify that is if you're cutting porcelain, you really don't want to be cutting anything hard porcelain over about 10 millimeters on this. This is a tile saw. It's a smaller motor. You're just going to put a lot of stress on the motor. So will it do it? Yes. But within a few months, if you're doing it, continually, you're going to really put a lot of stress and damage on the motor. So porcelains and stuff, stick to the smaller 10 millimeter and below. Ceramics, traditional middle of the road, PSI granites and stuff like that, you can go up to inch, maybe 1 1/4, but just be mindful this is a tile saw. It's not, you're not in the masonry motor size of the business, and just to, the motor will tell you as well. So one of the features we've actually added to this with the porcelain, you can kind of see this on the camera. we actually have a red, yellow, green monitor on the PC board that'll tell you if you're pushing too hard or putting too much stress on the motor. And if you're running this thing in the red, you're gonna severely take the life off of the machine. So we've kind of actually added that as an additional protection. Same thing as I showed you with the 362. Again, if you have worked with a wet saw and all the exercises that comes with a wet saw setup and breakdown and everything else, this saw, you basically plug it into a wall, you turn it on, and you're cutting. There's essentially no setup. The other nice feature on this is on the breakdown. If you've ever broke a wet saw down and the exercise that entails, all that you do with this one is take it like that, and you walk this thing out to your car. And if anybody's set up or broken down a wet saw, we can be up and running in about 30 seconds, and we can actually be back in the truck in under a minute. It's a great feature. We've got all the third-party testing on this tile saw. So if you're working in a kitchen, if you're working in an upstairs bathroom, doing a remodel or anything, you're pulling this saw right into where you're cutting and going straight to work. Okay. Vacuum system, filter system, dust containment, just like I mentioned on the 362. You've got the dust tray down here. So all your debris at the end of the day is coming right in here. Instead of the slurry and sludge, you can dump this tray right into a construction bag, let it sit for a few seconds, take it out, tie the bag off, throw it in the garbage, and you're out of there. We have an extension table, we have the miter table, we have a vacuum attachment, all that go on here. So you can actually turn this tile saw into a bench top. So if you're ripping any of the long planks, where do we have some?
Right beside the 228, there's a longer plank.
Yeah, there we go. So if you're doing any of the planks, so you can use that extension table and literally turn this thing into a bench top tile saw. You're going to take about, obviously you've got about 3/4 of an inch table, so you're going to take your cutting capacity down to probably 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch. Outside of that, the performance, the dust containment, everything, you can be cutting inside, doing whatever you need to do. Okay. Still quiet on the questions? Okay, IQ 228. This is brand new. We just actually, proud to say yesterday, we've got our first container. So this is everything we learned on the 10-inch tile saw. Paul and his team basically compacted everything and put it into a 35-pound benchtop tile saw. 7-inch blade, all your dust containment. So you've got your dust tray. Everything's just a little more portable, but you've got your dust tray. You've got your spin filter, just like everything else. You can turn this into a bench top. You can take all the accessories off and turn this into ripping. You've got an 18-inch table travel. So if you want to feed material through, you've got one of the cool things that Paul and his team and Matt behind the camera, all these guys chipped away at this thing, is this will be one of the first benchtop tile saws, if not the first, with a micro adjuster. So one of the biggest things on tile saws, especially now when you're ripping planks, is getting, say you need to do 4 and 3/8, and you're trying to figure that out. And if you could, you can see this. You basically put that dial in, and this is what we call the True Cut system. If you can see this, you can just dial this in to where you need and go there, and you can do it to the inside of the blade, the outside of the blade, whatever your preference style of cutting is. And there you've got your in between your inches, instead of going on a set inch increments, you can dial this in inside of the inch plus or minus into anything you need. You can do it in a rip format. You can put the back stop on and use it as if you're just doing small cuts, whatever. Really great feature. This saw is going to hit the market for about $649, which again, dry cut, all vacuum integrated, dust containment. You can pop this on if you're doing a backsplash in an upstairs bathroom or in a kitchen or a remodel, or if you do hotel work, you name it, you drag this thing in right to where you're working, 35 pounds, drop it down, plug it in, and you're cutting. So this just hit the market. We'll be starting to ship probably tomorrow. I think actually Merkley's got a few of these on order. Okay, that's the IQ TS, or the IQ 228 Cyclone, excuse me. The last thing we have here, and then we'll get back into the blades, is the HEPA 426 vacuum. So we introduced this last year at World of Concrete, right before the pandemic. And again, Paul and his team, it was kind of funny. So we wanted, with all the vacuum stuff that I've showed you this morning around our cutting equipment, we wanted to incorporate all of the technology that we had gathered and put it into a vacuum. We actually went out to the market, the open general market of vacuum manufacturers, and really could not find what we were looking for. So in typical IQ fashion, we went out and made it ourselves. And what we came up with was, which is what I showed you in the beginning of our presentation, we started testing and tweaking, you know, everything that we could find, and things that we knew we had learned from our cutting equipment, and kind of incorporated it into this 426. And basically what we've come up with is 190 CFM draw vacuum, which is, in this class of vacuum, is about probably about 15% higher than anything else out there in the market. And again, if you go on our YouTube videos, the neatest part of this is we can we do a test here. We'll pick up 50 pounds of drywall dust. We put this sheet in the vacuum, and we collect about 99% of the material is down in the drum before it even hits the filter. And one would ask, why is that important? Why that's important is the first thing that draws down the CFM of a vacuum is when the filter starts getting clogged. And the technology that we've built is we're actually bypassing the filter and going straight through the Cyclone vacuum system into the collection area without even hitting the filter. So you're constantly maintaining a high level of CFM draw on the vacuum. This is available. Merkley stocks this. We've done very, very well with this machine. For those of you on the call right now, if you go on social media and get some of the feedback of this machine, and the guys that are using it day to day, and take ourselves, you know, myself and IQ Power Tools out of the equation, the feedback on this machine has been absolutely phenomenal. Very low maintenance. It is dry. This is a dust collector. It's not a wet, dry shop vac. One of the questions is, can I suck up water with this? Any vacuum you can pick up water with, but you know, the recourse on that after, with getting the filter and everything wet, you're gonna start damaging the machine. And you get the filter wet, the next time you suck something like this up, you're gonna start caking the filter. So it's a dry, dustless collection system, all dry. Okay. No questions in the box yet? We'll move over here. We'll talk a little bit about silica and the blades. So I'm going to go back to the beginning a little bit of why we did what we did. And again, I'm trying to share a story from Paul, who actually was here for this piece of it. But silica dust, obviously, we're all well aware of it's really turned into the new asbestos. It's turned into, it's unfortunately got onto the radar of inspectors and health officials and everything else. And California is very progressive in that. And Joel and Paul, the original founders, and Paul's still here as the CEO, they were trying to protect their employees. They were trying to keep clean job sites. Let me back up here with Mark, and I don't understand the quick cut vacuum question. Forgive me. If I get a little more definition, I'd be happy to answer. Oh, yes. So We will be in June of this year. So we had the which was one of the other original IQ was the 912 gas cutoff saw. So we have actually taken that out of the market. That is in redesign. We are actually on the very, very final pieces of that as we speak, and we'll have running prototypes at World of Concrete this June. And I believe I can share with you at this point, Mark, that it's going to be a larger blade. It's going to be a little bit shorter, and it's going to be more powerful. So we've made some significant improvements to that saw with the goal of launching it into the market actually by the end of this year. But if you keep an eye on our website and some of our live feeds like this, you'll probably be able to see the first running prototype the week of June 8th at the World of Concrete in Las Vegas. If you guys are familiar with the World of Concrete, it's going to be a much slimmed down version this June. But we decided to participate because we're going to be showing some new prototype machines, and that gas cutoff saw is going to be one of them. So hope that answered your question. Okay. So back to silica. So with Paul and Joel, they really wanted to maintain a healthy, safe work environment, dust containment, and getting rid of the mud and the sludge and the slurry and everything else that comes along with either dry cutting or wet, dry cutting the old fashioned way with no dust containment, or the wet cutting. They started designing these machines. Joel at the time actually got very active on learning what was going on with silica and what the requirements and everything were going to be. I want to give you a quick example of what has come of all of this stuff around silica and the standards that we stay under. I'm going to come around to the front here to see if this works just a little better so I'm not reaching over the table. To give you an idea, you cut, or I guess I came too close. You cut a standard block just like that, one cut. That is the dust captured from that cut. And it's not both sides, just one side. Just the way I'm holding this mic, it's just one side cut. That's the dust that came from this cut, okay? What is referred to, which is a very close, if not the exact standard up in Canada, what the EPA and the health officials in the United States are saying it is safe for an individual to breathe in 1 year is that. That's 1 year of what they recommend you can breathe. This is one cut. I remember this is, that is, if you can see that, that is what they say is safe to breathe in 1 week. And if you remember back to this beginning, that's one cut. So with everything that I've showed you today, we actually stay under those requirements, and including TNO, to give you an example, we have two-hour indoor certification. We have 2-hour certification for cutting on the 362 outdoors. It didn't apply to indoor. And we have 2-hour indoor certification on the TS244. And keep in mind, that would be continuously cutting 2 hours. So if you're doing a standard remodel or anything else, you're maybe cutting an hour a day, an hour and a half probably on the long side. So we are well under all of these requirements in and around the silica stuff. It's ever evolving. I believe you guys are actually experiencing it up in Canada. We're definitely experiencing it down here in the United States, and you're seeing it probably the most active right now is in Australia, that they are really cracking down on job site safety, and especially in and around silica dust. As the last 18 months, it has turned out to be a really super hot topic. So that's a little bit around the silica stuff. We follow it very closely. We are actively involved in the American Lung Association and some other health organizations. Paul is really the spokesperson for that, and has been very in tune what's going on out there. And we really try and participate any way we can. One, it helps us on our research and development ourselves, and we can obviously share back in turn with them what we've learned. So it's turned out to be very good for us. Okay. Blades. Let's talk about blades for a minute, and then Sean, I'm gonna probably start winding this down. So again, we make and sell proprietary blades. That's turned out to be a hot topic, but I want to give you some explanations around that. So we actually have a worldwide patent on what is called the Q drive. So our arbor looks different. This arbor only fits on our tool. There is an insert in here that you can use our blades on other tools. And it wasn't for us to cause a bunch of problems and frustrate people. The problem that we had, and especially with the first machine I showed you, and then another machine, the 360, which is the 14-inch version, which had a standard arbor on, the problem that we learned what was happening starting about 10 years ago is guys would go to the likes of Lowe's or Harbor Freight or on the internet and buy a blade for $19.99 or $39.99, throw it on our machine and call us in an absolute tizzy that our machine didn't work. So we had to get creative, and really what we did was we needed to control. These tools are a system, essentially. It's like a Tesla car, it's like an Apple phone, whatever. We had to have an understanding of what was actually completing the makeup of the machine. So we did patent the blades. To give you an idea, all of our tile saw blades retail for $99. All of our 362 blades retail for anywhere from $299 to about $369, depending on the blade. And so one, they're right in there with the blade pricing of a good middle of the road blade. As I showed you briefly, and I could have brought you outside, we test tens of thousands of lineal feet, and we buy product. Actually, I've got some product coming from Adelaide in Australia next week. We test material all over the world, and we know what works, we know what doesn't, and we really need to sell these tools as a system. So that was kind of just a brief, I just wanted to fill you in a little bit of why we did what we did with the blade, because everybody, the original thing was we were going to become soft cut or something else and then sell blades at $1,000 or something like that. That was absolutely not our intention. And those of you that have started businesses, the last thing you want to do is burn more cash trying to get into the blade business. But we actually had to really make sure that our systems worked, and our systems do work, as I think the market attests to. So that's the Q drive side of it. The blade side of it, let's talk about the 362 first. So the 362 comes with the standard black blade here. This is a really good universal blade. And actually, right when we came out with these saws, actually, coincidentally, one of the first calls that I actually made myself was to Paul Mutter up at Merkley Supply. We went through a laundry list of the stuff there with this black blade and had no problem pretty much cutting everything and anything we could find in the yard. That doesn't say that that blade's going to cut everything, though. So if you guys know much about diamond blades, it's all in the diamond pattern and the hardness or softness of the diamond pigments in there, of how they drop out and how the second set comes in and the third and so forth. So there's a lot of science to diamond blades. The black blade is a very good universal blade. It's what ships with our tool. Standard block and stone and everything else, you're not going to have any problem with. Then as we got into populating the market more, and especially as the global markets, and we were learning in real time, we actually changed some stuff on the diamond patterns and everything else, and came out with, we've got a hard brick blade, we've got a hard masonry blade, which is the orange blade. I will say this orange blade, what we're learning now is potentially might actually become our universal blade. It just from a cutting standard overall, it actually is I don't want to say is a step up, because again, it really depends on what you're cutting, but the orange blade universal is probably right in there with the black blade as we've actually populated it in the market again, and that's actually globally. So we've gotten to test a lot of different stuff. So, and then lastly, for those of you that cut a lot of porcelain, so this is a brand new blade by us. This is a porcelain blade for the 362. And if you notice, the blade, let me get this straight here. This blade is a little bit thinner than a standard 16.5-inch diamond blade with a much larger collar. So the reason for this is the thinner kerf is obviously for the porcelain, but we needed the stability of the blade, so we had to expand the actual kerf, the armature on there for stability on the blade. This stuff will cut, this blue blade will cut, if you use any of the Belgard or any of the Oldcastle porcelain up there, which you're getting into 30 and 40,000 PSI material, this thing will cut it all day long. Great blade. Again, with the technology that we took off of this blade, we actually are going to put the diamond pattern of this blade back onto a standard kerf 362 16.5-inch blade and make what we're going to refer to as the super hard blade. And that's going to be for cutting, like if you guys get into, you know, 2 and 3 and 4-inch granites or any of the really hard manufactured stones, you know, we'll have that available. But so that's probably about 30 days out. So maintenance on the blades, keeping the blades clean. What do you want to do? What do you want to know? So we do sell dressing stones, and where that comes into application, I'll actually do it really quick on the 244. You're going to want to make sure you keep these blades clean, and where that comes into play on the 362, you can actually use to clean the blade. You can actually use cinder block as well. But it's a very simple exercise. All you're going to want to do, I'll just use it. All you want to do is when you're going back and forth, and especially if you're using, trying to think of what you, like on a 362, if you're going from like flagstone to some type of paver block or something like that, you're going to definitely most likely start what we refer to as glazing the blade over, which you'll actually start getting debris on the blade. So you can, like I said, you can use a cinder block, which is probably the easiest and most accessible, or dressing stones. You can buy these just about any, you know, most supply houses will have some type of dressing stone. All that you want to do So you can refer to it, it's kind of like washing your window. I don't do it as pretty as some, but I mean, you basically just want to wash that blade off and get any of the film on those diamond pigments and everything else. And how you'll know your blade is glazing over, probably the easiest thing is you'll start to see a lot more sparks. The blade will start sparking. The speed of cut will slow down. It won't be as clean. You'll start chipping material and everything else. Take a few seconds to do that, clean the blade off, and you're back in business. We've got, and Matt behind the camera could probably tell the story better than anybody because he was probably the front line for it. I bet over the 3 or 4 years, I bet there was a period that we probably got 100 blades. We probably got 400 blades a year, right? Your blade doesn't work. Your blade doesn't work. 98% of them doing just what I did, we were able to bring the blade back to full life. And what the moral of that story is probably 60 to 70% of the blades that are discarded too soon. To give you an idea of that, we just had that thing here. So if you remember in the very beginning of my presentation, I showed you that tile cut. I made the comment that you don't want to be that guy. So this is a brand new blade. All that tile that we cut, that's the blade. Can you see 4,400 cuts on November 4th of 2020. We actually ground, there is no diamond on that blade left. That's a used blade. And it works. It's just people will start, they don't want to clean their blades. They don't want to dress them. They don't want to do the quick maintenance. That took me 30 seconds. And if you do it with a piece of cinder block, it costs you about 4 cents. If that actually. So, all right. So that's a little bit about us. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to visit us. Let's see, we got Dave, Gary, Ian, Mark, Paul Mutter joined us. Good morning, Paul. and Scott Reed. So thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time to visit us here at IQ Power Tools. You can visit us online at www.iqpowertools.com. We have live video feeds. We have training videos in there. We have multiple tours like this. We go into service and maintenance on tools. There's a lot of information on our video section. You can call us anytime. We're a small bunch of guys down here. There's myself and Matt behind the camera and about 15 others in the building. So you guys, we're kind of a family-run operation here. So we're happy to help you guys any way we can. And we got one more question.
Yeah, it was from Paul Mutter, just saying they don't have any of the 426 vacuums in stock, but they got some coming in.
Okay, great. And Paul, I'm not sure when you joined us. I wasn't looking, but the 228s arrived yesterday. So we're going to be shipping those out starting Wednesday. We're going to be shipping them out starting Wednesday. So really excited to get those out into the market. And if you guys get some of the vacuums up there as well, they've turned out to be a lot of fun for us here in the market, and the customers love them. So anything we can do to support you guys going forward, we'd be happy to do so. And again, thank you all for taking the time in this busy world, crazy world we find ourselves in. So great day to you guys, and anything we can do, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you. Sean, I guess back over to you.
Yeah, so perfect. That was actually super interesting. I was interested in the whole thing as well. So we don't really have any more questions. So what we can do here is we'll just call this session concluded for now then. I just want to remind everyone to come back at 1:30 for our next round of free seminars, and be sure to check out our virtual exhibits during the breaks, okay? And thanks again, guys.
Thank you, gentlemen. Good day.
Thank you.